Hey, it's been a few months since we've been up and running with Tomahawk.VC and we've made some investments and we've talked to a lot of potential investments. And what we see is that we often get similar questions in our early calls with founders. So I decided to take some time to answer those most frequently asked questions here on video so you can watch it before our call, and we can then use the time when we have our first call to either dive deeper or answer more specific questions. So with that, I'll jump right in. Question number one, why does Tomahawk.VC exist? Very easy, we are an early stage venture fund and we invest in early stage ventures because we believe that great ideas often need a bit of lead time to take off. They need a bit of extra fuel to get off the runway. And we're there to provide not only the financial fuel, but also some knowledge and experience shares from our personal experience that will help you get off the runway quicker. Question number two. When and how much does Tomahawk.VC invest? I'll answer the second part of the question first. We invest up to 2 million Swiss francs, which is the same as $2 million US per company, but we might not write one single check of $2 million. It's much more likely that we're gonna write an initial ticket of somewhere between 250K and 1 million Swiss francs, and then use the remainder of the money to follow on in later rounds. Our entry is either pre-seed, seed, or Series A, and that's not only due to our check size, but also because we think in that part of your company's life cycle, we can add the most value besides the money. We've personally started companies, we've raised, we've grown them to much later rounds, but most of our personal experience is within those first 3 to 5 years of your company's lifetime, and that's why we think that's our sweet spot to be the ideal partner for you and your company. Question number three, what do we invest in? We primarily invest into B2B SaaS companies, and then second priority in anything else. We think it's important to have a focus and have a clear value add there. And for B2B SaaS, that's very easy for us to do. We've built companies in that space before, and also we've accumulated a lot of playbooks. We've seen a lot, we've helped a lot of companies that do B2B SaaS. And so we're able to share these playbooks between future investments. But I'm saying that's our primary focus, and we might deviate from that because obviously if we see a great founder, a great company, we're not going to pass on it just because it's not in our focus. Because at the stage where we invest, the one thing we do invest in is not the business model, it's the team. And that leads me to question number four. What is it that we're looking for? First and foremost, it's a great team. It's great founders that have assembled around an interesting idea that's potentially going to change the world. And to give you a bit more insights on what we mean by that, team for us means ideally a set of founders that are complementary, both in their personalities as well as their skills. And then each and every founder, when we talk to them, we're taking mental notes on 3 different dimensions. Number one, clarity. We think it's so important for founders to give clear and short, concise answers, because that's going to help them in everything that they do, from hiring to sales to product. If we see that founders have clarity, we believe that it's going to accelerate everything that they do. Number 2 is empathy. We want people that are likable because we think that that's going to help them grow a team that's not only there for the money or the potential financial upside, but also for the mission. They want to be there because they believe in their leaders and they want to change the world together. And then the third dimension that we look at is execution, which means have you shown that you're not just a talker, but you're actually an executor and you know how to get this thing off the ground. One way how we might evaluate that is by seeing from the time that we first touched base and started talking about your plans up until maybe 3 or 4 weeks later when we are still talking about the investment, how much have you achieved in the meantime? Are you completely busy with just getting the funding, or has your product, your traction, everything else actually moved during that time? So that's what we're looking for in terms of team. Obviously, the earlier, the more important is just the team. The other thing that we're looking for in terms of revenue, if we make a pre-seed investment, we don't expect you to have revenue yet, but it'd be great to get some clear indications whether or not the market likes what you're building. That could be an LOI, or it could be a partnership that you formed with a potential client. And for seed stage, what we're looking for is that you've sold some pilots, you have some revenue. It might not be recurring yet, but you have some revenue. And then for Series A, we expect at least $500,000 in recurring annual revenue for you to be ready for your Series A. Question number 5, what is Tomahawk's value add? First and foremost, we're also founders. I've started more than 10 businesses. I've raised capital both from European investors and American investors. I've raised small rounds, I've raised big rounds. I've built profitable businesses, but I've also failed a number of times. I know what it's like to be sitting on the other side of the table, and we speak the same language. I know how important it is to get clear feedback and a clear process from your investors to make sure you can fundraise quickly and then get back to work building a great team, a great culture, and of course, a great business. So that's our number one value add. Number two, we're gonna help you access the global talent pool from the get-go. We believe that any big future company will always be global. It just doesn't make sense to not use the potential of a global hiring market anymore. It's so easy to work remote together now, but there are a few things that you need to consider when you're doing it for the first time. There's a few tripwires, and we're gonna help you structure a process to avoid those. I've personally worked remote for the last 12 years. I've built companies that were all in one office, companies that were in an office and had remote people, but also companies that had all people remote or had several offices. I've learned a lot over the years. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm gonna help you not make the same mistakes. Number three, we're gonna help you raise enough fuel to really get your idea off the ground. I've built relationships with investors by being a founder and raising from them, both here and in the US. We co-invested with a lot of investors, and then of course we're also in regular exchange with a lot of investors, looking at their deal flow or sharing our deal flow with them. So we're gonna help you get that additional fuel in later rounds that you will need to really make this a big business. And four, product and technology. That's just an area that I'm naturally curious about and have always been excited about. So we're gonna do either workshops, or we're gonna use the product and give you first-hand customer feedback, or I'll connect you to great product and tech people that I've met in my journey. And then last but not least, we are gonna ask a lot of questions. We think that our job is not to tell you how to do things, but to be a sparring partner and sometimes be there to challenge the initiatives and the plans that you've made. Question number 6. What's the difference between Tenderloin Ventures and Tomahawk.VC? Tenderloin Ventures is the angel portfolio that I've built in 2014, 15, and 16 before I went back and became a founder again for Dfinity. What's the difference between Tenderloin Ventures and Tomahawk.VC? For one, we wrote smaller checks. We didn't have as much of an industry focus, and the total amount of money that I was investing was smaller. It was only 4 million at the time, and with Tomahawk.VC, we're now investing 20 million. It's quite normal for us to think in batches, so there might be a Tomahawk 1, 2, 3 at some point, because that allows us to compare performance and how these companies did instead of just reinvesting the same money. Even though in practice, of course, some of the money that we'll make in Tenderloin, we will invest through Tomahawk in the future. What's maybe important and differentiates us from other VCs you're going to be talking to, all of this is our own money, and that allows us to invest very quickly and be hands-on and not be restricted by LP agreements. Question number 7, how do you best get in touch with us? So it's quite widely accepted that an intro through someone that already knows us is the best way to get in touch with us, and I would second that, because these intros supply both a filter as well as an early culture fit if you come through someone that we've worked with before. But we also understand that not everyone has the kind of network that allows them to do that early on, and we definitely do not want to discriminate against first-time founders, and we think that your time is better spent building a great product rather than just building your network in those early phases. So number 1, get an intro and find someone that has already worked with us. Number 2, come to one of our events. We regularly do startup jam sessions. We're gonna do them online as well as offline. They're capped at a certain amount of participants each time, but be creative and make sure you get in, and that's a good way to get in front of us and let us know of your idea. Number 3, if both are not possible for you, you still have a way to get in touch with us. Go over to our website, Tomahawk.VC, and use the video application. So we've created a button in the bottom right corner that you can click that allows you to start a video application. What it is, it's basically an automated video interview where I'll ask you a few questions and you can record a video of your answers. Now, why do we do this via video versus via questionnaire that's written? Number 1, we think that we get a lot of context when you send us a video answer, because while the content is important And we need to understand what you're building if that's in our focus, but we also want to understand why you're building it. Is there that sparkle in your eyes? Can you not sleep if this problem doesn't get solved? And often that's the energy that we can only feel and get from an initial video. And number two, it serves as a filter. It helps us quickly figure out who's willing to take 10 minutes out of their day to send us this video message, and thereby qualifies as someone that will also take 30 minutes out of our day to assess the idea, discuss it, and then get back to you. Question number 8. What does the process look like after you've applied? So step number 1 is you apply, you send us your video, you send us your pitch deck, and potentially other information that is important for us to know. Step number 2 is Claude will get on a call with you for 30 minutes and get to know you. He'll ask some initial questions about you, your team, your traction, your company, your stage, and the round. After that, he and I sit down and we discuss whether or not this is generally a fit for us. If it is, step number 3, the 3 of us get on a call. So you and potentially your co-founders, as well as Claude and me, and we try to challenge you. We're gonna try and find weaknesses in your business model. We're gonna go deeper into your product, in your technology stack. We'll figure out what does your hiring roadmap look like. We'll just have a bit of a longer call and go a bit deeper. Step number 4, after that, Claude and I decide on 3 options. Number 1, we're not going to invest. We're going to decline and we'll tell you why. Number 2, we're very excited about your company or team and product and we offer to lead you around. We're going to send you a term sheet. Or option number 3, we're going to offer you to potentially co-invest. What that means is we're not going to come up with a term sheet. We're not going to say we want to do the round and assemble other investors. There could be a number of reasons. We might be too busy to lead the round, not excited enough, the round might be too big, but we might be interested to co-invest if you find another lead investor. And then step number 5, from there, depending on the option and your stage and your round and your setup, it becomes a bit less structured. What we always try to do is be very straightforward, be fast, and give you clear answers in as little time as possible, because we know that fundraising is not what you should be spending your time on. You should be building a business, you should be doing sales and building a nice product. Question number 9. What is our North Star metric? Now, what is a North Star metric? It means what is leading you? What's the number 1 KPI that you're always looking to go after and grow? When we're in a call or when we start to work together, I like to ask, if you would have to describe your business in a maximum of 3 numbers, which ones would those be? And why do I think it's important? I think it adds clarity. If you're able to boil down the success of your company to just 1, 2, or 3 numbers, then it's easy to track those numbers on a daily basis, so you can always be aware of, is your company going the right direction or not? So because we often ask that question, we also asked ourselves, and we realized it was not that easy to answer. Of course, there's lots of numbers that came to mind. First, there's the financial numbers, right? ROI, IRR, amount of money invested, value of our current portfolio. Deal flow numbers, like how many deals have we seen, how many have we invested in, how many deals have we moved to which stage. And then there's also, I would call them general KPIs, like how many visits on our website, how many press mentions, or how much time do people spend on YouTube watching our videos. And while a lot of these numbers are important, and we do track a lot of them, we found that either they have a very long feedback loop, like IRR or return on investment. That's something that typically in the venture world we only see after 5 or 10 years, or they might be important, but they're not worth optimizing for. So what I mean by that, while it's important for us to see a lot of different deals, it doesn't mean the quality of these deals is going to be good. And ultimately, we just want to find great founders, great teams, great companies. We don't necessarily want to see a lot of them. So that's why we thought hard, and it took us a while to come up with our North Star metric. And what we finally realized is that our number 1 North Star metric is intros through founders in our portfolio. Why is that? Well, for one, I've mentioned it earlier, we think that if we get intros from someone that we already work with, someone that we've invested in, someone that we've built a relationship with, that's a great filter because they understand our culture, they really understand the value we can bring to the table, so they're only going to intro us to cases that make sense for us. On the other hand, and that's even more important, they provide a great filter towards the potential investments. Because they will not risk their name and interest to someone that they don't think we're a good fit for. So it holds us accountable to do a good job. We think that if we do a great job, more founders will interest to more great founders. And then number two, it also makes our deal flow process a lot more lean. We're basically operating like a startup. We're 3 people, Claude, Boyan, and I. And we see a lot, and the more good things we see at the very beginning, the easier it is for us to filter down to companies that we want to invest in. All right, and that's it. 9 questions and answers that we've often heard. Hopefully that was helpful for you. If you have additional questions, please let us know. And even more important, if you have a project or if you are a team, if you're building something and you'd like to get in touch with us, then please head over to our website, Tomahawk.VC, and we'll hopefully speak about your project soon. And with that, stay curious, and until next time.